Londoners are addicts, newspaper addicts, and particularly so when it comes to evening newspapers. They read more evening newspapers per head of population than any other citizens of the world. Over 50% of the working population read an evening newspaper, or at least buy one. Most of the papers are bought subconsciously as part of the action of going home in the evening. No effort is made to buy a paper. They are thrust upon the customers by the multitude of men who waylay the hordes as they journey home from work. The sellers have to work fast at this interception to take full advantage of the short time that the customers are available.
You can each stand it, Arnold. Arnold, you can each stand it like that.
The point from which these papers are sold is called a pitch and has become a recognized point of sale over a period of many years in most cases. These pitches are jealously guarded pieces of property and are usually handed down through a family, father to son. This pitch near the Mansion House and Bank of England is run by the complete family. Dad, he has been here 42 years, Mum, and young son, one of 7 children in the family. He at least is learning to look after the pence. Presumably Dad looks after the pounds. Considerable ingenuity has gone into the equipment used to fit a pitch. Some are elaborately fitted out with makeshift roofs. Sometimes there is a self-contained shop selling every conceivable publication. I bet that wows the tourists. One who needs no stall at all is young Froggy, following his father, Old Froggy, so called because he used to jump around a lot. His activities here at Scrubbs Lane are almost unique, there being only one other seller in London who sells papers like this.
Someone is in Leytonstone. We're the only two that is doing this sort of thing in the road.
Yes, sir. Very good. You, sir? Thank you.
It's a case whereby the cars can't come on the pavement to us, so therefore we have to go to the cars. Mechanised it is today.
Yes, sir. Very good. You, sir? Thank you.
Aged 64, Froggy has been on this pitch for 30 years, and he sells about 520 papers here, between 5:45 and 6:45 every evening. From Froggy's enthusiasm, it is quite a contrast to see how sad some can be doing the same work. He probably wouldn't notice if the Martians came, or even worse. Never mind, the flag will be defended. We can always smoke 'em out. Keep your eyes open. Here is an unusual situation. 2 pitches sharing the same stream of traffic down Cornhill towards the Bank of England, but not adjacent to each other, as often happens where opportunity would be equal, but one behind the other. This, of course, must give an advantage to one of the men, but which one? The answer may seem obviously the first one, but it is not so. Here is what the first man in the line, Charlie, nearly 30 years here, has to say about the situation.
That is the case, you see, and now you're quite intelligent, I hope, but you think that. Now you're one man out of all these hundreds that come along here. So what does the others think? The same thing. So they all go to him knowing that he's a bad pitch. So to help him, they all go to him and leave me roasting here, and they don't know that he gets 10 or 12 pounds a week more than I do over it. So it's so wrong. Well, they've said to him, honestly. No, I've seen them. No newspapers. So, they're getting their money out like that. Okay. Standard news. No, I'm sorry, no. No, you've got an unfair advantage of him behind. Unfair advantage? Yes, I can see that. You won't know. And they don't know that they're so wrong. So wrong.
He maintains that not only do the public go to the second man out of sympathy for him because he is the second one, but that Charlie, being the first seen, does the advertising for the second pitch. Not surprisingly, there is a lot of ill will between the two men.
Or they come along there and just look at you, just nod to your customers that bought for ages, you know, and they go, just nod, you know.
Mind you, there is good trade for both. And Charlie does about 600 papers, and the other about 950 papers, between about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 6:30 in the evening. Nevertheless, even the proximity of St. Paul's itself cannot soothe the ill feeling between these two. Not all sellers are their own bosses. Arthur here at Marble Arch is employed by the Evening Standard, and of course only sells the one evening paper. The newspapers have always been keen to have their own pitches where possible, but of course have limited opportunities to get them with all the good sites occupied. Arthur gets the same profit on each paper sold as the independent seller, but as he sells only the Standard, his total sales are lower. The paper pays him a wage, called bill money, of 10 shillings per day to make up for this. No seller regards this as preferable to having his own pitch. Sometimes a newspaper-owned pitch can really take some trade from a private one when they are in direct competition, as here by Charing Cross Tube Station. There are actually 3 pitches grouped round the station entrance. The one who suffers from the competition is one of the few women sellers to be found. The Standard pitch is right next to her, with a third seller on the other side of the station entrance. The Standard only put their man there when they found that the woman's father, who ran the pitch years before her, was only coming to sell the later editions in the day, when of course business is brisker. The Standard wanted the early, slower-selling editions to be available here, so they put a man here. The moral is in this business, look after your pitch. The paper people want their earlier editions on sale as a service to the racing public and so on. No pitch sells more than about 30 copies of the midday edition, hence the lack of enthusiasm for the early trade. The busiest pitch of the 3 is on the other side of the entrance. His grandfather used to run it, but it's a good deal busier now than in those days. As he stands apart from the others, the crowds seem to head straight for him, and in the rush hour he is really hard at it. So busy is he, in fact, that he's got no time at all for shouting. Only the rival pitches, less busy with their trade, have time for that. Nearby, down by the embankment, at Temple Station, is a family who have the lot. A well-equipped and very comprehensively stocked stall, and also the opportunity to catch the evening rush trade by standing away from their stall in the station forecourt. This way they combine all the best aspects of the business in one location. During the day, one member of the family mans the stall, while the evening newspaper trade is very slow, and takes advantage of the highly profitable magazine trade. This way, the newspaper companies are satisfied that their early editions are available and are not given the excuse to put their own man here. When the rush starts, more of the family come in and handle the extra trade. There is a high turnover in the rush hours, as we have seen elsewhere, and perhaps we can consider the economics of it. The sellers pay 3.615 pence per paper, and selling them at 5 pence make 1.385 pence profit per copy. Papers are counted by the quire, 26 to the quire, and the profit works out at almost exactly 3 shillings per quire. The pitches that we have looked at so far sold per day quantities ranging from 20 quire to about 40. It was not possible to get a figure from these fellows, but they must do something approaching 40, apart from the magazines, of course. 40 quire, that's over 1,000 papers. 3 shillings a quire profit means that on evening papers alone they are netting about £6 a day. The day's first job for any seller on setting up his pitch is to sort out the papers that are left unsold from the day before. These are then counted carefully and done up, ready to be returned to the delivery man when he makes the first of the day's 6 calls with the early edition. papers are paid for in cash in advance, and the papers being returned are deducted from the payment. There are therefore various calculations to be made with the help of ready reckoners provided by the newspapers. All calculations and payments are of course based on the cost price of 3.615 pence per copy, or 7 and 10 pence per quire, and payment is made to the delivery man for the day's estimated requirements, less the cost of papers being returned. Most sellers have a standing order for so many quire of each edition. If any big news breaks during the day, the delivery man, or in some cases the newspaper offices themselves, add extra copies to each delivery, and this extra quantity is taken into account when the next day's payment is made. Seasonal requirements also have to be considered, and sellers will keep their orders under constant review. Alf, at his pitch here by Kensington's Gloucester Road tube station, explains.
It's all right here, but now and again you want something extra. You know what you're going to do. This time of year is a bit quieter, but you know what you do. We average near enough every day on a normal day. But you want something to happen, like, well, I mean, it's awful to get bad things happen, like Kennedy. Well, when Kennedy was shot for 2 days with that bit, I must have put about 50% on. Get the papers in galore up, Put 50% on the newspaper, but you don't often get things happen like.
Alf's a real old-timer in terms of years at the job.
Just after genocide, 1926. That's 5 years in the army. 41 years. It used to be my dad. He died just before the war, and I started here. I was working casual work on the Standard, and then I came here. My dad and my uncle were there, both of them. And the war came. They died just before the war, actually. Both of them, we were in a fortnight of each other, actually.
These fellows are a wonderful lot, friendly and full of the character of London. We tend to take the service that they give for granted, and this film is dedicated to them.
Thank you. On up! That's it. 228. Thank you. On up, mate. Please, stand it. Change the city. On up. Thank you. On up, mate. Yeah. You can each stand it. On up.
We're all busy, but sometimes put off the important things.